Hello, welcome back to I Got Board Game.
I got a board game.
I got board game. I'm
Board
Ben.
game. I'm John.
And today we are here with a review, but we're doing it in a slightly new format, trying it out this time.
New format.
So this new format, actually, we'll be trying for our reviews moving forward. We'll actually have each game we review, broken down into two videos that are hopefully more easy for you guys to kind of go through and find the information you want from them. And so this first video is what we'll be doing called a summary review, where it's going to be our usual general overview of the rules, and then John guesses the weight. Wait. And then our rating. So kind of just going through those points specifically, where then the second video we'll post relating to this game will be a detailed review, which will be specifically about our pros and cons for those of you who want to hear the exact reasons and details that led to our ratings. And so with that said, we will get into the summary review. Today, we are reviewing a game that came out, I believe, in 2014. It is a specifically and only two-player game, so no other player count. And that game is
The Ultimate Dodgeball Patches McFlafferton or whatever his name is.
Doesn't sound like a real game name, John. The game is
Patchwork.
Patchwork.
I even have my own copy.
Yeah, we both have it.
Oh.
Patchwork. You're like fading into your background too.
Patchwork.
There you go. By Uwe Rosenberg, which is a really big name in the board game industry. This version, at least my version, is published by I believe it's Mayfair Games, but I think it's maybe with other publishers now.
Yeah, Lookout Games, at least for my version.
Yeah, and then, like I said, it is a two-player specific game. The box says about 30 minutes, which I think sounds about right. And so we'll move into giving you guys a general overview of how the game will play, maybe even covering all the rules since it's not like a huge sprawling game. And so to kind of get into our general overview, I will share this picture of the game's components. And so with the game, you'll have this center board, which is basically like a time tracker. And both players will have their own piece starting on the outside of it in the same space. And it's basically, you're gonna move your piece forward on this track, depending on the patch pieces, the pieces of cloth that you buy during the game and put into your own quilt. Because if you couldn't tell from the theme, it is about making your own quilt, right? Both players are making their own quilt. And so they also each have their own player board, which is where they'll put these tetromino, polyomino pieces, which represent the different cloth patches that you're sewing together into making your own patchwork quilt. And so this is how the game will be set up. Like I mentioned, there's that center board which tracks time, because once both players' timepieces reach the middle, that's when the game will end. And so it's kind of keeping track of how much time you're using up with each turn and action you're taking. And so then on your turn, the way this is going to work is you're basically, the player whose turn it is the player who is who is further behind on this time track. And on a player's turn, what they're going to do is, looking at this wooden marker, they get to look ahead at the next three pieces that are randomly arranged out here in the circle during setup. And they can either choose to take one of these three pieces and put it into their own patchwork board, or they can move however many spaces forward to get right ahead of their opponent's timepiece. And for each space, collect a button for each space. And so buttons in this game are the currency. And so you'll start with a certain number of buttons, and then you can take that action on your turn to move just ahead of your opponent to also get more buttons if you don't have enough of this currency, this money. But what you're going to use the money for is that second action I mentioned of choosing one of the following 3 patchwork pieces to put into your board, because each patchwork piece has a cost to it, a certain number of buttons you have to pay to take it. And it also costs you a certain number of time, or basically how many spaces you have to move forward in using that patchwork piece. And so looking at this other picture that might be a little more specific on how this could be arranged. Again, these pieces are arranged randomly during setup, but then you'll look clockwise and see what are the next 3 pieces I can choose from. And so you can see the player currently could take this piece, but it would cost them 4 bullets that they have to pay to the bank, and it would move their timepiece forward 2 spaces. And so once you decide which piece you want to take, you pay, you move your piece forward that many spaces on the time track, and then you put this piece anywhere on your own player board. But once you place it, you can't move it anymore. And so you basically want to try to fit everything together, like we would say, kind of Tetris style, right? Fitting everything perfectly, filling in the most space, and covering as many squares as you can on your own player board. Once you take that piece, you move the wooden marker to that empty space now. And then if it's still your turn, if you're still behind, or if the other player is behind you, it's their turn. They'll look at the next 3 pieces and decide, do they want to pay for one of those, put it onto their board, or do they, again, instead want to move their timepiece ahead of yours and collect buttons, money in that way for this game. And so as you keep moving around, you're going to be, building up your buttons. Each time your timepiece passes a button symbol on this time track, you'll get to collect money or buttons equal to the number of button symbols you have currently in your own patchwork.
Yep.
So for example, back onto this picture, the player on the left, whenever their timepiece passes a bullet symbol, they would collect 2 buttons right now. And so, as you're building up and adding more patchwork pieces, you might be getting more and more of this income each time you pass a button spot on the time track. And so this will keep going until both players reach the very end, this center spot, and you'll calculate your score, which will be the number of buttons you actually have at the end of the game, and then minus 2 points for every empty space still on your own player board. And so after you calculate your score, you can also add in whoever won the bonus points of building a 7x7 in their own board first, which is worth a certain number of points also. You add all that together, and then whoever has the higher score wins. And that is how you play Patchwork. And so with that, moving forward, if you guys, again, want to listen to our specific pros and cons of this game, that'll be in our detailed review video, which will come up after this summary review video. But then moving forward, based on those rules that we just went over, some of those mechanisms and our experiences of playing this game ourselves, we're going to go into John guesses the weights. Wait.
So, keeping it simple, keeping it close, it's pretty easy, pretty quick in the explanation that Ben just gave of the overview of the game. My weight guess will be a 1.84.
For the 1.84. Okay. And so again, with this part where John's guessing the way he's guessing it to win a copy of the game, even though he has a copy already.
Win a copy of this game.
If he guesses the exact weight on Board Game Geek currently. And so to verify, he said 1.82?
4.
1.84. We will check with Board Game Geek right now. The weight on Board Game Geek is 1.62.
Too high, but much closer than my recent.
Yes, much closer. And so what this Board Game Geek page also shows is my rating. So my rating for this game is a 7.5. I think I come to this rating because of the clever mechanisms in a game like this that's specifically for 2 players. and how those mechanisms tie together so they don't feel like separate parts that you're juggling. They all kind of affect each other in like a nice chain link way. And then I think the clever theme, right? It's a very approachable theme and very different, but still, yeah, that kind of friendly, oh, I can get on board with this kind of a theme. And just kind of the fun with the polyomino putting them together. You know, that's kind of an old school kind of a thing in games, but that can feel very nice, you know. And so for those kind of at least those general reasons, I ultimately came to a 7.5, a very solid, in my mind, specifically 2-player game. And so John, your rating?
And so I'll just say that Ben copied me because I had a 7.5.
Good thing I went first.
I forgot. I'm supposed to say my 2 ones first
That's
before
true.
we
That's
show
true.
it.
I forgot
But,
too. So
I think very
jumped on it.
similarly, and as we said, we'll go into detail about it in our pros and cons video. So go check that out if you'd like to hear more of our actual thoughts on it. Overall, a very solid game. It's a great 2-player game. It's very light to learn. It feels like almost anybody can pick it up. It's also really nice because it's a low age range to play the game. It's very simple. You just count things and you just put position pieces on. So it's a very easy to learn style of game. And yeah, it's very enjoyable. There's a lot of great mechanics that we will talk about in the next video.
Yeah, so again, our ratings are 7.5 from both of us. So solid 2-player specific game. And so if you found this helpful, interesting, hope you'll can share this with friends, family, people you play board games with. Consider subscribing to this channel or even following us on Instagram at I Got Board Game. Until next time, we'll see you then. Bye.
Bye.